Everyone assumed Chinese manufacturers could build cheap machines. Copies. Budget parts. Truth? One of them built a Grand Prix winner. A machine so unexpected that the entire paddock spent 2 seasons refusing to believe what was happening in front of them. L'Oseille International Circuit, Qatar. March 10th, 2024. The lights go out on the opening round of the Moto3 World Championship, the smallest, angriest class in motorcycle racing, where 20-year-olds throw 250 cubic centimeters bikes at each other in packs of 30. In the field sits a machine wearing a badge most fans in the grandstand cannot even pronounce. No Grand Prix history. No factory pedigree. A company better known for farm engines and budget ATVs than world championships. Nobody expects it to matter. By the final lap, a Colombian rookie on that unfamiliar machine has carved through the entire front group and taken a win. It is the first Grand Prix victory in history for a Chinese manufacturer. Few people in the paddock understand yet what they just watched. This is the story of a company built to be dismissed, a rider nobody wanted to bet on, and 6 results across 9 races that rewrote what people thought a Chinese engineering company was capable of. Chapter 1. The Farm Engine Company. To understand how strange this story is, you first need to understand where the company came from. In 1989, in Hangzhou, China, a young entrepreneur named Lai Guoqiang started a small operation building engines and mechanical parts. Not motorcycles, not race bikes, engines for other people's machines. The company was called Zhujiang Chunfeng Power. Chunfeng means spring wind. Nobody in Grand Prix racing had heard of it. Through the 1990s, the company grew steadily, developing its own liquid-cooled 4-stroke engines. In the early 2000s, it branched into ATVs and side-by-sides, the rugged, unglamorous machines sold to farms and trail riders across North America. This was CFMoto's real identity for most of its existence. Reliable, affordable, invisible to anyone who followed motorsport. Think of it this way. If MotoGP's traditional manufacturers were old aristocratic families, generations of racing pedigree, factory museums, decades of championship silverware, CFMoto was the tradesman who showed up at the door. Useful, competent, not invited to the party. That changed in 2011 when CFMoto entered a technical partnership with KTM, first supplying components, then building engines under license. By 2017, the 2 companies had formed a joint venture. CFMoto was now manufacturing motorcycles carrying serious European racing DNA, but almost nobody outside the industry noticed. In 2022, CFMoto entered Moto3 for the first time, running a KTM-derived machine. It picked up a single podium in its debut season. A quiet footnote. Exactly what everyone expected from a company most fans associated with quad bikes, not Grand Prix racing. Compare that to the manufacturers around on the grid. Honda had decades of Grand Prix history and a factory division built specifically to develop young talent. KTM ran its own dedicated satellite squads with full engineering support. Even smaller constructors carried recognizable racing names, brands people had grown up watching win. CFMoto carried none of that weight and none of that credibility either. Chapter 2. The bet nobody believed in here is where the story could have ended. Another Asian manufacturer testing the waters, gathering data, gradually fading from the grid within a few seasons. Instead, in 2024, CFMoto made a decision that looked on paper like a mismatch. It partnered fully with the Aspar team, a small Spanish outfit with a strong Moto3 pedigree, but nothing close to the budget of Honda, KTM's own factory squad, or the manufacturer-backed teams around them. Aspar brought 2 riders. One of them was a 19-year-old Colombian named David Alonso, a rookie who had finished 3rd in his debut World Championship season the year before. No marketing campaign existed around this pairing. It was a small team, an unproven engine, and a rider who had never won a Grand Prix race in his life. Alonso described his own mindset arriving at that first race of 2024 with total simplicity. He wanted to fight for wins, nothing more complicated than that. Nobody expected the results that followed. Chapter 3. Why the small team had an advantage. Most people miss this part entirely. CFMoto's disadvantage on paper was, in a strange way, exactly what made the breakthrough possible. A factory team carries its own bureaucracy, layers of engineers, layers of approval. Changing a chassis setting can mean weeks of internal sign-off. Aspar was small enough to move fast, testing new geometry, new engine mapping, new ergonomics within days instead of months, and feeding every lesson straight back to a manufacturer hungry for exactly the kind of real-world data. Picture a startup racing against a corporation. The corporation has more resources. The startup has fewer meetings. CFMoto did not need to out-engineer Honda or KTM's factory operation in 2024. It needed to out-adapt them race weekend after race weekend, and a lean independent team with a rider willing to push every session was precisely the environment built for that. Chapter 4. 6 wins, 9 races. At Losail, Alonso's Qatar victory looked like a lucky opening round result, the kind of story that gets forgotten by round 5. It was not. He won again in Austin, then France, then Barcelona, then Italy. By the summer, other riders were no longer treating him as a surprise contender. They were treating him as the man to beat, and he kept beating them anyway. 6 wins from the first 9 races. That was Alonso's tally by the German Grand Prix, a pace nobody on the grid and few people in the sport's history had matched. Commentators began comparing his rhythm to Joan Mir's 10-win season in 2017 and to Valentino Rossi's 11-win campaign in the 125 cubic centimeter class back in 1997. A manufacturer with no Grand Prix history, running a small independent team, had just produced results that belonged in the same sentence as Rossi's. Established manufacturers had entire factory departments, years of accumulated chassis data, and works-level budgets. CFMoto had a KTM-derived platform, a 5-year-old technical partnership, and a rookie who refused to slow down. If you're enjoying watching an underdog dismantle assumptions like this is exactly the kind of story this channel exists to tell. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Chapter 5. The crown nobody expected. By the Japanese Grand Prix at Motegi, with 4 rounds still remaining, Alonso had already secured the title mathematically. He finished 2024 with 10 wins in total, the first rider from Colombia ever to claim a world championship in Grand Prix motorcycle racing, in any category. But the individual title was only part of the story. CFMoto also became the first Chinese manufacturer ever to win a Constructors' Championship in Grand Prix racing, and Aspar claimed the team's title alongside it. Riders. Teams. Constructors. The full sweep, achieved in the same season. A small Spanish outfit and an unfashionable Chinese engine builder were expected, at best, to survive. Loris Capirossi once said of Casey Stoner's Ducati that the machine had many problems for everyone except the one rider who made it look natural. CFMoto's story runs almost in reverse. The machine was never the underdog here. It was proven, KTM-derived, competitive from day one. The doubt was aimed entirely at the badge on the fuel tank and the small team running it. What if CFMoto had entered Moto3 as a true factory effort from the very beginning, full budget, full work support, instead of steadily building through a component partnership for over a decade? Would the breakthrough have arrived years earlier, or would it have taken exactly this long, patiently proving itself one engine contract at a time, to earn the trust required to win? Which underdog story in motorsport surprised you the most? Drop your answer in the comments. Since that first Qatar win, CFMoto and Aspar have added dozens more podiums together, and the partnership was extended through 2031. A company that spent 3 decades known mainly for farm engines and trail bikes is now a Grand Prix championship constructor, with a contract that runs for years still to come. The machine did not have to prove itself only once. It had to do it 6 times in 9 races in front of a paddock that had already decided what a Chinese manufacturer was allowed to become. Every other manufacturer on that 2024 grid was defending a reputation earned across generations. CFMoto was building one podium at a time, with nothing but results to argue on its behalf. That may be the real lesson underneath the trophies. Credibility in this sport is never handed to a newcomer. It has to be taken lap by lap until the paddock has no choice left but to admit what it is watching.